Have you ever questioned why your home still feels so little, even when you're constantly purchasing more plastic bins, shelving, and organizing boxes? We're going to talk about a harsh reality today. The issue is not clutter. It is merely a sign. This video will show you why organizing can sometimes simply give the appearance of progress, what intense feelings prevent us from letting go, and a quick exercise that will make you feel lighter right now. As the title suggests, organizing is not the answer. Because if adding more containers and labels were enough, every home would already be neat, and every person would already be free. The reality, however, is the reverse. I'll also give you a really easy assignment at the end of the video that could completely alter the way you think about your house. Please remember to subscribe, like, and share this content if you find it useful. We are inspired to keep releasing more significant content by your support. I appreciate you being here. First tip: organizing isn't the answer. Have you ever spent a full day labeling, rearranging boxes, installing more shelves, and then sighed with relief? It's finished. The house is clean. However, everything returned to normal after just a few weeks or, at best, a few months. The first reason is this: the answer is not in organizing. It is merely the appearance of advancement. You can tidy your closet, reorganize the garage, or straighten drawers. But, in reality, you are not lowering the quantity at all. You are merely shifting them from one location to another, just with a new coat. Clutter is still present. When we concentrate too much on organizing, we run into three major issues. First, planning allows you to postpone making decisions. Rather than having to wonder, do I really need this? Your thought is, I'll leave it here and label it later. Second, a false sense of security is produced by organizing. You feel in control when you look at a neat space, but the load is still there on the inside. Third, organizing doesn't make a difference. It just keeps you occupied. The more shelves and boxes you build, the more you distance yourself from the issue. For instance, over the course of 3 years, a friend of mine reorganized her basement 6 times. She always sighed in satisfaction when she was done, and saw everything in its proper position. However, she hadn't let go of anything, so the cellar was filled again just 6 months later. The items remained, but in various locations. She eventually came to the realization that she had enough of plastic bins. She was not decisive. It's not awful to be organized. Cooking may be sped up with a neat drawer, and finding equipment is made easier with a clean garage. However, you can never escape the cycle of clutter if you merely organize. To make a real difference, you need to address the fundamental question: is this object supposed to remain? Otherwise, let it go. Only then will your heart be at rest and your house feel genuinely lighter. The second tip is about the feelings that drive you to hold on to things. Objects are not the main cause of clutter. It has to do with the feelings you are holding within them. When you look at dusty objects, the stories you tell about them are typically what keep them around rather than their actual value. The fear of scarcity is the first. The question, what if I need it later, causes you to hang on to items that you haven't used in a decade. The second is the guilt associated with relationships and presents. Because you don't want to offend the person who gave you the birthday gift, you find it difficult to discard it. Identity comes in third. Even if they are retired or live alone, many people preserve old books, office supplies, or workplace attire as proof that they are still that person. The fourth is the necessity of control and safety. You hoard items to feel ready for anything, but in reality, they make your home smaller and raise the possibility of a fall. And lastly, there's loss and love. You worry that the memories of your late husband will vanish along with the old clothing you have of him. Clutter is difficult to deal with because of all these feelings. Because you see more than just an object when you hold it. Part of yourself, part of your fear, and part of your memory are visible. The crucial query, though, is whether keeping it brings you true peace or merely suffering. Does the memory truly go when you let it go, or does it remain within you? You can only break free from the cycle of clutter and start the real process of letting go when you have the courage to ask these questions. The trap of absolute neatness is the third tip. Have you ever been captivated by transparent boxes, delicate wicker baskets, or vibrant label sets in a home goods store, and believe that your house will be neat right away if you simply purchase them? The trap of absolute neatness is this. It leads you to feel that the arrangement is the issue, but the true cause is that you haven't had the courage to let go. Sorting, labeling, and placing each thing in its proper box can take hours. Your room then seems as though it was featured in a magazine. However, clutter is still present, but concealed by attractive containers. In fact, this causes you to be more delayed, because you feel like you've done enough every time you see that neatness, yet the true load still exists. There was a family I knew who had a garage that was immaculate. Each box has a color code and each screwdriver has a label. However, because every available place was taken up by more stuff, they were unable to park a car there for over a decade. This demonstrates that freedom is not synonymous with neatness. It's easy to waste more time and money on baskets, boxes, and shelves, the more you strive for perfection, rather than confronting the difficult question of what should really remain. Although it keeps you trapped in the same cycle, the trap of absolute neatness is pleasant because it makes you feel productive and organized. You won't really escape this trap unless you stop concealing and begin to let go. The fourth tip is a true transformation tale. This is the tale of 72-year-old Wichita, Kansas, resident Mrs. Margaret Collins, a retired nurse. She gathered a lot of items during her nearly 40 years of employment in the medical field. Work clothing, dozens of pieces of furniture purchased while her children were still living at home, gifts from co-workers, and outdated medical equipment. The large house suddenly became a burden once her children went out and her husband died. From a basement full of cartons to a garage where no car could fit, every room was packed with possessions. At one point, Mrs. Margaret believed that the house would feel lighter if she organized herself better. However, she was still worn out after numerous rounds of purchasing bins, shelves, and labels to rearrange. Her decision to reduce her belongings by up to 95% marked a turning point in her life. The bulky wardrobes were removed. She only kept the clothes she really liked and needed. The living area was so light and spacious once extra furniture was donated that she could set up a little armchair there to read in the morning. As a result, she not only found a new place to live, but she also found inner peace. "I didn't lose anything," she said. "Instead, I regained the freedom, ease, and leisure I had never known I had lost." There is one obvious lesson to be learned from Mrs. Margaret's experience. It's never enough to organize. We can only genuinely live lightly by letting go. The self-reflection questions are tip number 5. Many people ask, "Do I have space for it?" rather than, "Do I really need it?" while they are standing in front of an object. This is the key distinction between decluttering and organizing. Try employing a series of straightforward yet effective self-reflection questions to make it simpler. First, am I merely moving items about, or am I actually decluttering? Moving a single item from one area to another indicates that you haven't made the decision to part with it. The second query is, if I let this go, what feeling am I scared to confront? Fear of losing a piece of myself, fear of forgetting, or fear of lack? Third, is this object associated with an older version of myself, or does it fit the person I am becoming? The fourth consideration is whether my kids or grandkids would want to keep something or throw it away right away if I were gone today. You can determine the true worth of each object by asking these questions. I recall Mrs. Linda Parker, a 68-year-old retired San Diego elementary school teacher. She discovered that the majority of the volumes on her previous bookcase were textbooks, grade books, and stuff from 2 decades prior. She no longer stood in the front of a classroom, but they once stood for her identity and job. Do these books fit who I am now? She asked herself. She made the decision to give the remainder to the neighborhood library and keep just a select few that were associated with special memories. She claimed that she felt as though a bulky rucksack had been removed from her shoulders after she let go. This demonstrates that you will find the solution if you have the courage to inquire. And independence is sometimes the solution. The sixth tip is to do a quick workout to relax today. Avoid thinking about the full house because it is already draining to imagine cleaning everything at once. Start small instead. The exercise for today is easy. Decide which 10 items are the simplest to release. It can be an old newspaper, a torn garment, a damaged plastic container, an expired medication, or a broken chair that is no longer functional. Sit for a few minutes after letting go and see how you feel. Are you relieved, afraid, or regretful? Put one reframe in writing. I simply won. I didn't lose. You got cleaner air by throwing out a moldy jar from the kitchen. By discarding a rumpled plastic bag, you were able to make your kitchen more organized. I recall a 74-year-old former railway worker in Springfield named Mr. Richard Moore. He began by getting rid of 10 things from his garage, such as some old shoes and cans of dry paint. In his notebook, he then wrote, "Today, I gained space to set up a folding chair to sit and play with my grandson." Hope and a sense of control were brought about by a single tiny deed. You don't have to declutter everything. Therefore, the first step is the 10-item exercise. All you have to do is start. You'll discover that the subsequent steps are not as difficult as you initially believed once you start. The advantages of really decluttering is tip number 7. You discover that nothing has been lost when you genuinely let go. You've actually gained a great deal. Health is the first advantage. The house has more light and space. You sleep deeper and breathe more easily. Safety is the second advantage. The chance of falling drastically decreases when there are no obstructions in your path, allowing you to move around your house with confidence. Pride is the third advantage. Many elderly people believe they are no longer strong enough to perform large tasks. However, you discover that you can still do it when you clean a section of your home by hand. Your life is still yours. The fourth advantage is that memories are intentionally preserved. You only keep the things that really resonate with you, and gratefully let go of everything else. Lastly, the biggest advantage is a different atmosphere and space. I would want to tell you about Mrs. Helen Johnson, a 70-year-old Omaha, Nebraska librarian who is now retired. She tidied her living space and put a tiny orchid and an armchair by the window where she reads every morning. "I didn't just declutter my house," she stated. "I made a space where I could live out the rest of my days." This demonstrates how decluttering transforms more than simply a house. It transforms the soul. You are choosing a lighter, safer, and happier existence when you let go. The eighth tip is a problem. You need to put what you just heard into practice now. For you, I have a little yet significant challenge. Don't purchase any new plastic shelves, bins, or baskets for the next 7 days. Look for release rather than storage. Decide the fate of at least 10 objects per day. Because they are really essential, keep them. Give away because someone else can use them, or discard because they have no worth left. Your home will be visibly lighter after 7 days, with at least 70 items gone. I recall Mr. James Miller, a 66-year-old Portland carpenter who had retired. After accepting this challenge, he had enough space in his garage to park the car that had been left outdoors for years in just 1 week. Laughing, he remarked, "I never thought I could do this much in just 1 week." This is how powerful little everyday routines can be. The outcomes are significantly better than you could have imagined when you stick to them. I recommend 2 useful books if you choose to continue. Cassandra Arson's The Clutter Connection and Joshua Becker's The More or Less. They will assist you in better understanding the reasons for your previous organizational style and how to make the decision to live a simpler but more fulfilling life. Now that the task has been established, it is up to you. Start today and share your results in the comments. Who knows, maybe your tale will encourage someone else to start the letting go process. Together we have traversed 8 sections. From recognizing that organizing is really a facade, to identifying the underlying feelings that cause us to cling to the straightforward 10-item exercise and even a 7-day challenge to begin living lighter. It's time to reiterate the most crucial fact. The issue is not clutter. It's only a symptom. Fear, memory, and our inability to make a decision are the true issues. Not only are you cleaning out your house when you have the courage to let go, but you are also releasing a burden from your heart. After downsizing, Mrs. Margaret and Witcher remarked, "I didn't lose anything, as I recall. I regained my life." That is decluttering's real power. Perfection is not necessary. All you have to do is begin. 10 things, 1 drawer, 1 day. And gradually, you'll design a room that embodies your current self. I appreciate you staying right to the finish. Your presence inspires me to continue sharing more significant content. Please like, share, and subscribe if you find this content useful, so that we can all take a little step closer to living a lighter, safer, and more tranquil existence every week.